only with us till 10, can we call the roll, call to order, ask for an adoption to change the agenda so the director's report can be second? Can we do that?
If that's what the commission would like to do, and yes, we can do that, sure.
Okay, I would like to do that then. I will call this meeting of the Historical Commission on May 7th to order at 9:32. I would ask Sarah to call the roll, please.
Marion Almy.
Present.
Judy Bentz.
Present.
John Browning Jr.
Present.
Steve Burtman. Bill Clegg.
Present.
Matt Hudson.
Present.
Rick Gonzalez.
Here.
John Phelps.
See the picture.
Cliff Smith. Okay, and Cliff did let me know that he wouldn't be able to make it today. Rick said he wouldn't be able to make it today either, but there he is. Hi, Rick.
Great.
We do have quorum.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
I
Go ahead.
do have to leave at 10:30. My 9:30 was moved to 10:30.
Okay, that sounds good. Then I'm going to ask for a motion to change the agenda order so that the director's comments come in second. May I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, John. Who's the second?
John Browning.
John Browning. Thank you, both Johns. Please give your name. I can't see you, actually. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to change the agenda order, please say aye.
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 Opposed, likewise.
Aye.
Okay, that's great. Tim Parsons, we'll move you in quickly so you can give the director's report, if that's what we should do.
Well, thank you very much, Mary, and I appreciate it. And thank you all for indulging my my schedule today. I have, as you all might expect, a few updates on the legislative session. There were a few dramatic things that happened, but to be honest, nothing nearly as dramatic as what we expected, given a lot of the earlier concerns about the budget and what that might mean for current year spending and for next year's budget. But first, thank you all, of course, for being part of the Historical Commission and for being here. It's always a sacrifice of time and effort, and particularly for those of you that serve on the National Register Review Board, it's kind of pulling double duty every quarter. And so I know that we appreciate it, and everyone involved in the National Register process appreciates it too. So I will start with, and I'll keep it pretty brief and just answer questions, because honestly, I think most of it can be, it's a lot, but it can be summarized relatively quickly. First and foremost, and most impactful to DHR is after really almost 2 years of working on it, and 1 year formally operating this way managerially, this year, the legislature did pass the consolidation of the Division of Historical Resources and the Department of State Historical Museums, which in essence recreates the Bureau of Historical Museums in DHR. And I don't know if she's with us this morning, but Lisa Barton is our Bureau Chief of Historical Museums. And so we're very happy that once July 1 hits, that will be formally established. And then, of course, we have even more work to do in terms of really finalizing all of that through working with the reorganization of some museum staff with DMS. And there'll be a few challenges there, I'm sure, but the big lift is over. And so in DHR, we're very happy to officially welcome back Mission San Luis, the Museum of Florida History, the Knott House Museum, and the Grove Museum. In my humble opinion, they're back where they belong. So definitely more to come on that. And at the very end of my updates, I'll have a kind of a description of what we'll do in the next Florida Historical Commission meeting to give you all some more information, not just on the museums, but in the division generally, since we have some new commissioners and not everybody, especially particularly with the pandemic over the last year, we haven't really done what we would normally do, which is give, kind of in-person overviews and have discussions and presentations about how DHR really works. So along with that reorganization, The legislature giveth and the legislature taketh away. And in this case, it's not really the legislature, it is the NEA at the federal level. They have decided to change the funding structure for how the National Folklife program works. And so essentially the feds are requiring for that grant to go to the state Arts and Culture Agency, which of course is the Division of Cultural Affairs. So as part of that legislation, the Folklife program will be moving from DHR into the Division of Cultural Affairs. And again, that just has to do basically with how the federal agency overseeing the Folklife program has changed their funding structure. So we're kind of sorry to see that happen, but it also opens up the door to new opportunities. And we don't have a whole lot of info on exactly how that's going to play out yet. We have some planning to do. But things change. So I'm sure there'll continue to be a strong relationship between the Folklife program and DHR, because we of course work closely with our colleagues over in the Division of Cultural Affairs. Also, with regard to bills, House Bill 37 did end up passing and becoming law. It passed both the House and the Senate. The Senate had a slightly different version, but they ended up adopting the House version, and that is the law the bill that establishes the Task Force for Abandoned African American Cemeteries, and that establishes the task force adjunct to the Department of State in DHR. So I'm just going to read a section of the bill to you for those of y'all that aren't completely familiar with what the purpose of this task force is. But the task force is created adjunct to DOS for the purpose of studying the extent to which unmarked or abandoned African American cemeteries and burial grounds exist throughout the state, and developing and recommending strategies for identifying and recording cemeteries and burial grounds, while also preserving local history and ensuring dignity and respect for the deceased. And there will be appointed members to that task force. The Secretary of State or her designee will chair the task force. A representative of the Bureau of Archaeological Research will be on the task force. All of these are appointees of the Secretary of State. One person nominated by the NAACP will serve on the task force. One representative from the Florida Council of Churches, one representative of the Florida African American Heritage Preservation Network, one representative of the Florida Public Archaeology Network, one representative of the cemetery industry, one member of the Senate, one member of the House of Representatives, one elected official from local government, and the task force will have its first meeting by August 1st, 2021. So more details to come. We have some planning to do, obviously, but we're excited about this. The original version of the bill was bigger and had some requirements for historical markers and some contracts and that sort of thing. This is kind of a pared down version of the bill that, in my opinion, really sticks to the meat of the issue, which is getting experts together to really discuss and plan on the fact that numerous, and it's going to come to pass that hundreds, if not thousands, of these cemeteries exist and have been discovered throughout Florida. So I'm pleased to see that pass, and I'm glad that DHR will be involved. And excuse me for 1 second. Thank you. Sorry about that. So I'm excited to see where that goes, and I'll be really pleased to participate in the task force and help the secretary hopefully do some good things and come up with some good recommendations. Overall, in terms of our operating budget, once you account for pulling in the museum dollars and the museum staff, our operating budget and our staff funding is essentially level going from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. Again, that's not really what we expected a few months ago. I expect, although I'm no expert in this, that the influx of federal dollars really helped ensure that there weren't huge gaping holes in the state budget. There are a few surprises. I know that Angie Tomlinson will talk about the grants funding for the next year. So I will leave that to her. But the overall good news is that our operating budget and our staff levels going forward into the next fiscal year are going to be about right where they were for the last fiscal year. The last big legislative thing that happened that we are going to be kind of helping with and administering in the next fiscal year is the legislature appropriated $30 million for African American culture and historical grants. This is both interesting and exciting. It's something that kind of popped up late in the legislative session. And it's a short piece of proviso language. And rather than try and summarize it, I'm just going to read the entire thing. And I'll begin now. The non-recurring sum of $30 million from the General Revenue Fund is appropriated to the Department of State in fixed capital outlay to conduct an expedited supplemental grant funding process for capital projects at facilities in Florida that highlight the contributions, culture, or history of African Americans. The Florida Council on Arts and Culture, which of course is in the division of adjunct to the Division of Cultural Affairs, and the Florida Historical Commission shall coordinate to jointly conduct an expedited grant application process using policies and guidelines similar to those approved for the annual culture and historic grant processes utilized by the department. Priority shall be given to projects that encourage the design or construction of a new facility or the renovation of an existing facility in an area with great cultural significance in which no facility exists. Enhance the beauty or aesthetic value of facilities named for significant African Americans, or restore facilities on the National Register of Historic Places. The guidelines shall outline a process for accepting, reviewing, and ranking applications for supplemental or new funding. An eligible project may receive up to $500,000 or up to $1 million with 50% matching funds from other sources. So of course, this language is only essentially a couple of weeks old. So at the department level, we're still processing it. But it does appear that the Council on Arts and Culture, as well as the Florida Historical Commission, will be reviewing and ranking an additional set of grants in the upcoming fiscal year. We don't have too many details on how this is going to work. We have already started planning and coming up with ideas. Angie Tomlinson, Tim Konepke, and I met with Sandy Shaughnessy and representatives from the Division of Cultural Affairs, as well as department leadership staff, essentially to start planning and planning quickly. So I imagine in the next few weeks, we will have more information to share with the commissioners. Right now, we're still kind of in the planning stages. So please stay tuned for that. And then, of course, the final thing I really need to let y'all know about is just that at the next FAC meeting, DHR staff, we're going to provide overview and a presentation on the new consolidated DHR, what our organizational structure looks like and is going to look like, and also give short but informative presentations on what each bureau and what each program area does, because I know there are commissioners that have more recently come on board and we haven't had a chance to really do that yet. And then also, some of y'all commissioners have been here for a decade, but it never hurts to have a refresher course. And of course, we're doing, making little incremental changes all the time just to be able to do things better. So hopefully there'll be something new for everyone. And I'm sure that discussion about all these legislative initiatives has caused some questions to pop into your head. So I will stop there. And if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them about those subjects or anything else.
Hey, Tim?
Commissioners, who has a question?
Marion, this is John Phelps. I do.
Yes.
Tim, I gather since this $30 million is in the appropriation bill, we need to have all of that money committed before the end of the fiscal year, next fiscal year. Is that correct?
That is the goal, at least the initially stated goal. It is fixed capital outlay, so there'll be the opportunity to potentially basically, extend that out over multiple fiscal years. But it needs to be committed during the current upcoming fiscal year, right? Correct. And of course, with the language in there that's emphasizing expedited, that's going to happen. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I think there will be some coordinating that's necessary between this and the special grants categories competition, because so many of the projects we've been receiving over the last few years have been in this category, it seems to me, a fair number of them. And so we need to be sure we don't allow that process to become conflicted in some way to the detriment of the other potential applicants for the special categories.
That's correct, and that's certainly a possibility. What is interesting about the language, and of course we do that every year, even with cultural facilities grants and that sort of thing. What's interesting about this language and some details that we still have to work out, of course, are that it does say or restore facilities on the National Register of Historic Places. So the language is a little bit limiting in that regard. And my initial impression, and I wouldn't take this to the bank quite yet, but my supposition is that much of this task in regards to the actual administration of the grants and kind of the project types will fall a little bit more neatly into what the Division of Cultural Affairs typically does. But it is certainly possible and probably likely that there will be some National Register listed properties that might come to us applying for these dollars.
Okay.
Hey, Tim,
Yeah.
and this is, I'm going to put you on the spot, so I apologize. And maybe I missed this. Has the department come up with an opening plan for some of the properties now that the Capitol is open?
So yeah, great question. The department's properties are going to reopen formally on Monday to the public. And that means, of course, that the museums will start following their normal schedules, well, essentially over the weekend or on Monday. That means that the Grove Museum will be open on Wednesday and the Museum of Florida History will open on Tuesday. But there are a couple of things that are sort of mitigating that. One, of course, is we've got to bring staff back up to speed. We were asked to put this reopening into place rather quickly over the last week, which is fine. We were prepared and we had reopening plans, of course. We've had reopening plans for a year. But we do have to bring staff back on and then also, we haven't been filling vacancies as fast as we would like over the last year for a couple of different reasons. And so there are some pretty key vacancies that we need to fill since we're going to be bringing the public back onto our properties. And so we're not doing a whole lot of, advertising or new events or anything like that just yet. We're planning more of that for a little bit later in the year once we're fully staffed back up and everybody's kind of back into the swing of things, essentially.
10-4. Thank you.
Other questions for Tim? No? Goodness gracious.
Tim, I
Tim, do you have
can't, yes,
any
I
other
do
thoughts?
have one question.
Okay,
I know we're
go
going
ahead.
to go special category grant details here in a few moments, but I frankly tried to find that language in the appropriation bill and it's somehow eluded me. I think I know what happened, but I'm not absolutely sure. Can you just give us a broad brush approach to or explanation of what happened?
The $30 million or?
No, I'm talking about
special categories.
Yes.
So as y'all know, I have not been in the office this week. I'm on annual leave. So Angie Tomlinson and Tim Konepke may have learned a little bit more in my absence.
Okay.
However, at least as of the end of last week and the very beginning of this week, we didn't really have a good understanding of exactly why that funding wasn't in there, while, for example, some of these other large amounts of fundings were in proviso language. So I'll defer to Angie on that because I have not learned anything new over the last week, but it's possible that more information has come out. Angie, do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, well, yes and no. I did ask some of our legislative staff, why, if they had any insight into why the ranked list was not funded. They did not, but they said they did the same thing at the last minute, because we had in the initial offers from House and Senate, both of them had included special category grant funding. And then when the final budget offer came out, it was not there. And apparently they did the same thing they removed cultural facilities funding and library facility construction funding. So the only thing that's currently included for any of the divisions for the big fixed capital outlay grant projects is member projects. So we do have 7 member projects, which I can talk to later, but that no real insight from our legislative staff as to why that happened when I asked this week.
That's why I couldn't find it.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
it's not there, unfortunately.
It's very disappointing because the special category grants were created typically to herd the turkeys so that stronger members didn't always get their projects and people had a chance. And it's kind of reverted to what it was 20 years ago. I'm sure
Yep.
they're good projects, but it was kind of why we were set up, was to oversee and herd those turkeys and come up with the best ones for funding. Kind of takes away what we were designed to do, only maybe for this year, I don't know.
Well, it's been a strange couple of years, and so we're hopefully things will get back to normal. I know we were disappointed as well.
Well, maybe we can find out. I know we have some guys that are able to find out things on our commission, and maybe down the line we will have a little more information. It would be helpful because the people go to a lot of trouble to prepare those grants, and I know we all make time in busy schedules to review them, and now they're mute. So it happens. We're not in control. Otherwise, we'd have millions.
Also, just to add, this is Angie again, since this happened last year as well, and we know that we had some very disappointed applicants, we already sent an email to all the applicants on the list encouraging them to apply this cycle, which doesn't close until June 1st. So we've already done that earlier this week as well. So there may be some, if people decide to do that, there may be some repeat applications this year as well.
Okay.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit more when we get to you, Angie.
Yeah.
I see it's about 10 o'clock here. Tim, are you departing as we speak, or is there something else you would like to add or questions from the commission?
Well, I'm happy to answer any more questions, but if there are none, I will leave you all in the capable hands of Angie and Sarah, and I might take a walk down to the beach.
Woo! Okay.
But that's why you had to leave.
That is why I have to leave. That is correct. I'm actually on vacation out of town right now.
Well, we have no sympathy for you. Go ahead, Tim. Go get a sun. Okay.
But as reasons go, Tim, that's a pretty daggum good one. So well done you. So
well, it's hard to drag me away from the beach in mini golf. So that being said, I was happy to be here today with y'all.
wow, you had to lump mini golf in there. Okay, now I just want to leave work.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
come on down to Crescent Beach, and you can join us for a round later this afternoon.
I wish.
Okay, Commission, then we're going to thank Tim again, and we will go back to the original item number 2. Now it's staff and guest introduction. So I would ask Matt Hudson to briefly introduce himself, and then we'll move on to John Phelps.
Yeah, good morning, Matt Hudson, recovering politician, and happy to be here.
Well,
This
we're
is
happy
John.
for you to be here.
Yes, we are. John Phelps, Staff Director of the Senate Rules Committee.
Thank you. How about Bill? Are you there? Bill Clegg?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you tell us who you are?
I'm the county attorney in Manatee County, and I have a very lifelong interest in history.
As a Sarasota resident, I sometimes see your name in the paper.
Yeah, probably not in the most favorable light. That's just.
I was not going to comment on that.
Yeah, that's the story of
No,
my life.
That's not true, Bill.
This is
Okay,
a nice
Judy
break. So.
Judy Bentz, are you there?
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes, I'm there. I'm Judy Bentz. I'm in Pensacola. I am the president emeritus and professor emeritus. I recently retired in January from the University of West Florida. I am also a historical archaeologist.
Thank you, Judy. John Browning.
Hello, yes, I'm John Browning from Palatka, Florida, and a historian of sorts. Spent a lot of time on Spanish history and in the history of this part of the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Gonzalez, are you still there or have you flown?
Yes. I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Rick Gonzalez, President REG Architects in West Palm Beach, Florida, architect on the National Register Review Committee, and currently the chairman of the oh my gosh, I'm having a brain moment here. Of the
Advisory Council on Historic Preservation.
Thank you. In Washington, D.C. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the commission besides myself who's come aboard? I'm Marian Alme, prehistoric archaeologist in Florida, president of Archaeological Consultants, and I'm happy to say this year, we're celebrating our 45th anniversary in business. So archaeology is alive and well. Okay, let's see. That is the call to order and the roll call. We've introduced the commissioners. Now we're going to staff. Let's see. Let's see. Tim is gone, so why don't we start with Angie? Would you like to introduce yourself and then recognize your staff?
Sure. Angie Tomlinson. I'm the Assistant Director of the division, also a Deputy SHPO, and Sarah and I are here in the same conference room as we usually do these meetings. So Sarah, like Lico, you can also introduce yourself.
Hi, I am the Program Administrator of the division, and my most recent big projects have been our disaster grants, the money that we've gotten from the federal government for Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Michael recovery. And then I do a lot of other stuff. I'm getting to talk to all of you and be your liaison with the division.
Very
Alyssa
good.
Lotane? Yep. Alyssa, you're unmuted.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alyssa Lotane. I'm the Bureau Chief for Historic Preservation, also another Deputy SHPO. And I'm in my office for the first time today in a year. So I've got a new computer set up. So hopefully you all can hear me, and I'll give my report in a few minutes.
Thanks.
Katie Miar?
Hi, I'm Katie Miar. I'm the State Archaeologist and Bureau Chief of the Bureau of Archaeological Research. And I, too, am for the first time back in my office. But it's painted.
Congratulations.
So thank
you.
Michael Hart?
This is Michael Hart. I'm the Historical Marker Program and Digital Outreach Coordinator for the Division of Historical Resources, and I am not in my office.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, can you tell if any other staff members are on the call currently? Michael's running the Zoom.
Not to my knowledge, there aren't any other staff members on. I would add that Steve Bertman has joined the meeting.
Welcome, Steve. Okay, then we've done staff and guests. Steve, if you can hear me, do you want to introduce yourself? You missed that.
No, I'm good. Let's keep moving.
Okay, thank you. Adoption of agenda, we changed the order by motion. Do we now need to adopt the agenda formally? Sarah, I'm asking you.
No, it's already been adopted as amended, so we can move on to the next item.
Thank you. Approval of minutes from February 5th. I would like a motion to correct or accept as emailed.
So moved.
That is whom?
Matt.
Who said? Matt. Thank you, Matt. And who seconds?
I'll second John Phelps.
John Phelps seconds. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed likewise? Okay, super. We come to the chairman's report. I do not have much to say, having blurted out my feelings regarding legislative projects as opposed to the historical commission list, so I won't go back into that. I was going to ask Sarah, and Sarah, you may want to do this under other business, but I had talked to you before about the award we had given to Dr. George Lure about 2 or 2.5 years ago, and we'd never gotten around to the plaque. I wondered where we were on that.
Right, we can go ahead and I'll mention it now. We were moving forward with what you had recommended, which was to have a nice letter from the secretary and the plaque, and to mail those to George Lure. However, now that things are reopening and there are some upcoming events for the next year. We didn't know if the commission would prefer to still try to present that to him in person, which would, be probably more recognition for him, or if you would like to just go forward with mailing him a letter and a plaque.
Well, I would say that Judy Benz had mentioned, and the commission agreed a couple of years ago, that it would be appropriate to give that award to Dr. Lure at the combined meetings of the Florida Archaeological Council, the Florida Anthropological Society, and FPAN's board. But that is happening almost momentarily, both in person and online, and so I think we've missed it for this year. I don't know what to say. I hate to wait another year. Does anyone else have a suggestion?
Well, Marion, this is their FAS is having their meeting virtually. You might see if you can't give it to George virtually at the business meeting.
Well, Sarah, do we have a plaque yet?
No, but that shouldn't take too long to get made. They have the template, and they're in town. It's a pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Well, we had moved or had hoped that the Secretary of State would be presenting it. That might happen virtually. I don't know. This has gotten so confused because of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, particularly being closed down. I wonder, this is just a thought, we have a website, the division has a website. Maybe it could be presented somehow and put on the division's website and other organizations noticed. But I'm thinking if we don't have the plaque and they're already into their virtual meeting, when is that, Judy? Is that in another week?
It's soon. I don't know exactly when it is, but it's before the end of the month.
Yeah, I think it's the 17th or 18th or whatever that weekend is. So I think that would be out for this year. Would the commission allow Sarah and I to work on this with Tim and see what we can do and report back, hopefully having given the award in some way?
That's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, I'd really like to get it because, frankly, if we don't give our awards, they mean nothing.
Oh, Marion, I did have one idea, and I'm not sure how this will go over, but do you know where he lives? Is he in Sarasota?
No longer. He's over on the East Coast in Palm Beach County.
Oh, okay. Because I did wonder if it would be possible for a member of the Historical Commission to present it to him. But I mean, it wouldn't be as eventful, but maybe it's a possibility.
No, the meeting, I'm not even sure where it is. It's in the middle of the state somewhere.
Oh no, I meant just him personally. No, not at a meeting. Just
I don't know. I selfishly, on behalf of the Historical Commission, would like to make it something special so that when we do awards, and we haven't done any for a few years, and we've kind of gotten lost, which I understand everything's gotten lost, but to make them meaningful and worthwhile for our trouble to come up with people and evaluate them and present awards, I kind of think it needs to be something special other than just someone handing it to a friend. Anyway, Sarah and I can talk about that, and we could reach out to the commission and ask some questions if that's okay. But it'd be nice if we could get the plaque made so we have it.
Sure.
And it would have the original date, right? Whenever that was.
Yes,
I'm assuming because the award was several years ago.
Yes. It was 2019, the 2019 award.
Yeah, right. And we didn't do an award in 2020, and I'm not sure we're doing one in 2021. I'm not in charge of that, but we haven't talked about it. And typically, by now, we would have formed a committee to evaluate. But I would just as soon give out the award or awards that we did before.
If the commission does want to move forward, normally it's since I've been helping with the commission, I've been doing that at the August meeting. Putting that on the agenda to make the committee and for them to meet between the August and November meetings, and then for the full commission to review the committee's decision at the November meeting. But it's up to you if you want to move forward with that this year or not, and we can discuss that between now and August, Marion.
Okay, that sounds fine. I think, Sarah, you and I will send out an email to commission members when they've had a little time to think and see if we want to do this, because it is an effort on everyone's part, and they're worthwhile awards. So if that's agreeable, Sarah and I will look into it further and reach out to the commission. Any other comments about that? Okay, then we've had the director's report, and now we're going to item 7, committee report. Bureau of Archaeological Research, Katie.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to just mention that our Bureau really did a great job performing all the necessary duties that we manage with the state's cultural resources while predominantly teleworking this year. And really with just some hiccups with field work, it's because of travel restrictions. It was very successful, and I'm very proud of our staff and what they've achieved throughout the pandemic. But we're hopeful now that with DOS returning to normal operations, that we'll begin essential field work again. And so everybody's very excited about that over here. They're itching to get out into the field. While all our employees do a really great job, there are a few things I just wanted to highlight for you today, some of our projects and programs. And I won't keep too much of your time, but I wanted to mention a very interesting project that 2 of our staff from the Public Lands Archaeology program are doing. It's based on a Florida legislature bill that was passed in 2018, which was commissioning a statewide LIDAR survey of the highest quality level. And for those of you who may not know about LIDAR, it's light detection and ranging, that's what it stands for, but it's a remote sensing method that uses light to measure ranges and distances to Earth, and it's extremely accurate. And it has changed the face of archaeology really by making it possible to measure and map objects and structures that might not have otherwise been noticed or had remained hidden. And so this statewide LIDAR survey was a 2-year effort, and it resulted in the most accurate topographic mapping products ever produced for the state. And in response to that bill, Dr. Jason O'Donoghue and Brandon Ackerman from our program initiated a long-term project to inventory Florida's archaeological mounds on state-owned lands, as well as managed lands, and using this data as well as field observations. Of course, the field observations got a little delayed because of COVID, but what they did instead was focus on working on the implementation of artificial intelligence and deep learning algorithms that you can use on this data to really identify these archaeological mounds on state lands. And the results, we're really looking forward to the results of this. I think it's going to be very exciting. And I hope they get to present on it very soon at one of the upcoming conferences. Another thing I wanted to highlight is our close and growing partnership with FWC law enforcement. Our Bureau really greatly assists and works closely with FWC LE officers. In particular, our Public Lands Archaeology program works with them on looting cases, including serving as expert witnesses and providing testimonies, but also through our program called ARM training, which is Archaeological Resource Management Training. It's led by Dr. Paulette McFadden. She's the supervisor of our Public Lands Archaeology program. And it's regional and it's tailored to whatever the training audience is. And it's gone virtual this year, but it can be in person or virtual, depending on the situation. But we provide educational training programs free of charge to law enforcement, as well as state, city, county, government agencies, advisory boards, et cetera, regarding aspects of state and local historic preservation issues, and those who have to administer preservation ordinances. And this gives an overview of Florida archaeology and DHR's role in management on state archaeological resources and the laws that protect these resources. And it's been very well received, and FWC in particular has really utilized this training, and it has just created an even more unification between our Bureau and that agency. That kind of leads into, we've also received 2 underwater grants that were awarded from NOAA for 2 different projects. And one of them is another law enforcement one, and it's part of our commitment to assist law enforcement. It's called the Coastal Zone Enhancement Program grant. And it funds both the prop wash deflection study as well as creates a hands-on underwater archaeological resource management training for land managers and law enforcement. So this is the ARM training equivalent in underwater archaeology. And it's going to be through a 5-year program for this NOAA fund. And they'll provide, our staff will provide a classroom teaching materials both on the water as well as in classroom about the laws, submerged resources, illegal activities, and best management practices. And that prop wash component, for those of you who might not know, prop wash deflection is a technique that's done, and it's where they put a tube behind the propeller of a boat to deflect the vessel's prop wash downward, to remove sediment and sand to see what's down there. But there's never really been a study to detect whether or not this is actually causing damage to archaeological resources or not. And so that's going to be part of this grant as well. And then they received another one. They were awarded 2. They did a great job this year, our underwater staff. And this one is a coastal management grant that's proposed to basically explore the effects of coastal erosion on 2 of the barrier islands in Gulf of Mexico. So they're going to focus on Dog Island and focus on some of the analysis of sediment cores from Minnesota Key from a previous excavation of that. And then lastly, not to take up too much of your guys' time, but another program I really wanted to highlight was our Conservation Lab's internship program. Our Conservation Lab is unique in the Southeast, and eventually when people get to come and visit the Department of State, I encourage you guys to do a tour of our Conservation Lab. It is very unique. And in the Southeast, and we're able to conserve large shipwreck timbers and prehistoric canoes and cannons and various other things. And there's not too many labs like it really in the United States or in the world. And so hands-on experience with this kind of training is very unique and limited. And our conservators have done a great job of creating an internship program that has been very successful in getting students the hands-on work that they need to even go into this field. And they've successfully moved on to become conservators in museums and universities and various other places from this program. So then during the pandemic, they actually made it virtual, and they did a bunch of videos, training videos, and they put together, they're really reaching out now to universities to try and get a little more attention to this program. So I just want to highlight that.
Thank you, Katie. Are there any questions for Dr. Millar? Okay. Let's see, go historic preservation updates. Alyssa Lotane from your office.
I am in my office. It feels different. So I want to reiterate what Katie was just saying about our staff and how wonderful they have been over this last year, and how our production, even with having a short staff and working remotely, they've just done a really incredible job, particularly the compliance and review section, which is sort of a never-ending churn of development projects coming through and keeping projects going throughout the state. Also, the Florida Master Site File, they've really been the ones here in the office. Chip Birdsong, our supervisor, has been sort of overseeing everything while we're away, and answering the phone and holding down the fort. So they have really done a great job. I'll start with the National Register, because we had our National Register Review Board meeting yesterday. So thanks to all the commissioners who participated in that meeting on our board. And I just wanted to read a quick list, since you can't see my agenda here, of the ones that we reviewed yesterday, and all of them did pass the board. So we'll be packaging those up and moving those on to the National Park Service. We had the Panama City Publishing Company building in Panama City, obviously. The old Howard Academy in Monticello. The St. Augustine Public Burying Ground, which I think somebody said they couldn't believe it wasn't already on the National Register. But that is one site that we chose because it's a territorial period site. And we have been trying to focus with the 200th anniversary of Florida becoming a territory of the U.S., have been trying to look for sites from that are associated with that period and the statehood period, and list those on the National Register if they are not already listed. So if you know of particular sites that you would like to see listed, you can email me or Reuben Acosta, and we will look into getting those listed. Also, the Lakeside Hospital in Defuniak Springs, which is right across the street from the Chautauqua Hall, if you're familiar with it. Also, the Eden Mansion in Port Washington, which is within a state park. So those are from yesterday. We did have everything from the last meeting was listed except for Fellsmere, which the Fellsmere Historic District, which was returned to us for a few edits. So we'll do those and send it back up to the Park Service again. But the ones that were listed since we last met were Old Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Gainesville, the University Lutheran Church Complex in Gainesville, the Union Terminal Warehouse in Jacksonville, which is just an enormous project right outside the downtown historic district. And that's also going to be a tax credit project. It's within an opportunity zone. They're using possibly some HUD credits and funding. So that'll be an interesting project going forward. And also the Civitan Beach House, which is in Indian Shores, was also listed. For Main Street, I think I've told you this before, we have our Preservation on Main Street conference coming up July 21 through 24. And we were still a little iffy last time we met on whether or not we would be in person, depending on what happened. And I'm happy to report that we will be in person, is the plan to be in Panama City, in Newport Richey for the Preservation on Main Street conference, July 21st through 24th. And this is our second year doing the conference jointly with the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. Last year, obviously, it was by Zoom and was great. But this year we vastly expanded it. There's a lot more sessions. So we're really excited about that. The content and the tours will be great. And we hope that you can join us. Registration, I think, is opening this week. The website is preservationonmainstreet.com. You can register there, and the theme is Imagining the Road Ahead, which I think we all is a great theme for this year. Also, happy Historic Preservation Month. May is Historic Preservation Month each year. And this year we partnered with the state parks to feature some of their National Register resources that are within state parks or parks that are on the National Register. We also have a Facebook contest that's going on, as we've done for the last few years. We have 5 opportunities for people to go on, and they can guess the historic site or historic park that the clues are about, and they can win a pass to any state park within the state for a group pass so like I think it's up to 8 people possibly can get in for a day at any park that they would like. So that was done, thankful to the State Parks Foundation for that donation. We've also, as Tim mentioned, we've been doing a lot of hiring now since, we were over the last year had not been able to hire for various reasons. And so we're finally getting people back into positions, especially in the compliance and review section. We have a couple people coming back on board really quickly. I don't know if you know Lindsay Rothrock, but she was one of our reviewers for the Department of Transportation projects, and she's now moved over to DOT to work for them in a similar capacity. So even though we lose people sometimes and shift people around, we seem to be implanting them into other agencies. So it's been really nice to be able to work with people that sort of know how we work at the SHPO office. We're also now advertising a Historic Preservationist 2 position that will assist with the historic tax credits. Right now, I'm still handling the historic tax credits in addition to my other duties and learning a lot. And because we're still without an architect, we're still trying to fill that position as well. And then the final announcement is that our longtime administrative assistant for the Bureau, excuse me, Beverly McGriff, she retired on April 30th with 35 years of service. I think the majority of them, nearly all of them, were working within the Bureau. So she was retired on April 30th. She was probably, I think, our last of the old guard, employees that had been here for the 30 and 35 year time frame. So we will really miss her. Thanks, Marion, for reaching out and messaging her.
She's been so good to the Historical Commission over the years. Any problem, she took it and handled it like it was her own.
Yeah, and I know she did the travel for the Historical Commission for a lot of years until we moved to the online system. So hopefully a lot of you got to meet her. And so we plan to rehire that position. We're going to add a few programmatic duties to that, hopefully things like comprehensive plan and maybe somebody to help me out with Historic Preservation Month. And so that will be out soon as well. So if you don't have any questions, that's my report. Does anybody have any questions?
Anything? Thank you very much, Alyssa, and congratulations on your safe return to the office.
Thank you. I can hear the leaf blower outside, so I don't know if anybody else can hear that.
No.
Sorry for the noise.
Okay, we now go to the grants program, and I know, Angie, you gave us some interesting information, and I'll ask you if you have other comments, and I will also ask you if you know who the 7 members were that got their historic preservation projects in the budget.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. The 7-member project, as I said, the legislature did not allocate funding to the ranked special category list. We had expected they would, because in the initial Senate and House offers, they both had included funding, very different funding. I think one was around $2 million, the other was around $8 million. So we thought, oh, maybe they'll come somewhere in between, but that did not come to pass. So what was included was about $3.3 million for 7 projects, one of which was on the list that was ranked, and they, I guess in hindsight, were smart enough to request a member project. That was Saving Peck High School in Fernandina Beach. They were ranked number 4 on the list, somewhere around there. They did get a member project for $500,000. The additional ones are not ones that we've really worked with, except for one. The Historic Bush House in Crestview received a $250,000 line item. Jackson House Restoration in Tampa received $500,000 line item. Old Fort Wall Stabilization and Restoration in New Smyrna Beach received $900,000. That is based on the project proposal submitted to the legislature. That is a stabilization of a coquina wall in New Smyrna Beach. Rich Sloan Museum in Webster, Florida, received $100,000 in the budget. Again, Saving Peck High School, $500,000. The St. Augustine Lighthouse, who we have worked with quite a bit before, also received $484,000 for some interior work, including painting the interior of the lighthouse. And the Women's Club in New Smyrna Beach received $600,000. So right now, we don't know if any of those will be vetoed, but those are the 7 that are included in our current budget allocation, the 7-member projects. On the bright side, our small matching list, which was 58 projects, did receive full funding. So those will all be funded at a little over $2.2 million. So again, we're just waiting to see how the governor will act on the budget. The application cycle, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, is open. It's been open for both small matching and special category grant applications since April 1st, and we'll be closing on June 1st. We did also notify all of the grantee or applicants on the ranked special category list for this year, or fiscal 22, to go ahead and think about submitting again during this application cycle, since they still have about a month to do that. If they want to for fiscal 2023. All applications, as usual, are submitted in our online system, and that's where the FHC will be reviewing and ranking them in the fall. And as of this morning when I checked, we only had 3 applications submitted. We had about 50 in process. So right now we have 2 special category applications in and 1 small matching. Usually they all come in the last week, if not the last day. So that's when we anticipate most of them will be submitted. The button will be clicked to submit. Just for comparison or context, last year 71 special category applications were submitted. So we don't anticipate any major drop in that. So we'll assume it will be somewhere between 60 and 70 as it usually is for both small matching and special category. Since the last meeting, Sarah had polled the commissions. This is just a reminder, had polled the commission about the best dates for special category meetings. And based on those responses, the best date for quorum would be September 28th and 29th, which we've reserved our conference rooms for, and that's a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Prior to the meeting, as usual, we'll schedule a webinar where we walk through the program, refresh everyone on it, and how the process works, and walk through the online grant system. And we, as always, try to release the applications to you for review at least 4 weeks ahead of time. Usually we get them out a little before that, but we'll give you at least a month to review those. We're not sure right now. Obviously, it's early days. We just are reopening in the stages here. We're not 100% sure yet what the format of the meeting will be, but it could potentially be in person again this year. But we'll know that well in advance of the meeting date for you all. And the last thing I wanted to mention was based on your request on the last few meetings, we did have staff in the grant section prepare some handouts, which Sarah already sent to you with the meeting materials by email. So these are handouts that show some of the a selection of grants that are currently open, and we included where they are based on their most recent progress reports that were submitted. So we're going to plan on doing these types of progress updates on open grants at every meeting going forward. But I hope that you received those and found them interesting and useful to see how the grant projects, the special category projects, are progressing. But other than that, those are the main items I wanted to hit. So any questions?
Commissioner?
Angie, I'd like to say that I found the materials you sent out about the ongoing projects very helpful and very interesting.
I actually did too. When staff send them to me to look at, I thought these are great and they will be very useful for the commission. And if we just get into the habit of doing because we receive the progress report quarterly, so the unique quarterly, so that will just allow us to every time give you, an idea of what's going on with some of the projects. So, and if there are any projects that you would like to know about specifically, if you'll let me or Sarah know, we can make sure those are included.
Yeah, I have to say, as this is my second meeting, I guess, after the grant review. So I enjoyed seeing the updates because, frankly, all of that was pre my coming onto the board. So it's nice to see what's being done and what work is being done. And I lived right down the street from the Hayes house, so I saw all the construction going on. So that one I didn't need, but it was interesting to see, nevertheless. That's for sure. So
great.
Angie, this may not be the right time to bring this up, and others may think I'm insensitive in doing so, but I think we need to have the Secretary of State sit in on one of our meetings in the near future to talk about the question of the Historic Commission's role with special categories grants. If we're taking a new direction on this, I'd like to hear from her what her thinking is about what has taken place and what might take place in the future.
Yeah, we can certainly bring that to the Secretary's office's attention, and I imagine she would be willing to sit in on a commission meeting. So we will definitely look into that. Thanks for suggesting it.
Thank you both. Are there other commissioners with comments or thoughts? I'll just butt in and say, and as Judy Bentz knows, we were around when this started, and we've been off the commission and back on. But it was totally one of the major purposes of the commission was to help identify important and well thought out preservation projects in Florida, and to make preservation an economic engine, and in being sure that the projects that got funded were ready to be funded and had the infrastructure administratively as well as otherwise in the community to carry the projects out, that way to show that preservation did indeed do a lot for the economy of Florida and was very helpful with tourists. And it hasn't died away, but it's certainly, our wings have been clipped, and that may be the way the future is going. Okay, I'll shut up now and ask for comments if there are any.
Well, I agree with John. This is Judy. I agree with John that we need to know from the, I'd like to hear also from the secretary what our role is, because I don't see much of that we're doing much any good. You know, we rank grants and then they're not funded. Member projects are increasing. And if that's the way it wants to go, or the legislature is going, then that's the way it is. But we'll all have to make decisions whether we want to sit on a commission that really doesn't have any teeth or purpose.
Thank you, Judy. Others, comments or thoughts? Okay. We're now moving to dates for upcoming meetings, and Dr. Tomlinson told us about the 28th and 29th for special category, which of course we had already in our calendars, I believe. Are there any other dates upcoming, Sarah, that we should be aware of?
The next business meeting is August 6th. And then the next business meeting after that will be November 5th. And those of you on the National Register Review Board, your next meeting dates will be the Thursdays before that. So August 5th, National Register, August 6th, FHC, November 4th, National Register, November 5th, FHC.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments about upcoming meetings?
I can't make the 6th. I'm way out of town on August. But
okay. I may have a knee replacement, so I don't know what I will be doing, but we'll just see.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Also, under other business, Sarah, I wondered if it's feasible for us to receive a copy of that House Bill 37. I thought that was pretty interesting, and also the verbiage for the $30 million for the African American Cemetery Cultural History Project. Is that draft or final verbiage available?
This is Angie. Yes, that is a proviso language, so we can get a copy of that to you as well. Tim read it verbatim, so that's really the extent of it, but we will definitely send it to you along with HB 37.
Thank you. I couldn't possibly remember all that, but I was very interested.
Right.
I thought it was wonderful.
Right.
I thought it was wonderful.
Angie,
other...
sorry,
Yep.
on that point, what is the line item on in the appropriations bill that covered that area? Do you know?
It's not, I don't know. It's not a line item that is in our, I only have the cutout language that our legislative staff sent to us, so I don't know if it's connected to a line item or not, but we can find that out.
Well, it should be fairly easy to find. The appropriations bill is online, and I think you could do a search for 30 million and find it. So you need to know right now.
Well, it's definitely not in our actual, it may be, actually now that you say that, I think in some of the, as Tim said, this really popped up in the last week or two of session. It sort of came out of nowhere from our perspective. And I think in some of the discussion with our legislative staff, they said that it would be preferable to not put it in any specific division's budget, but in the department's budget. So it might be under the Secretary's office budget, so we'll look for that.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there other comments regarding other business or public comment? Okay, this was a very quick meeting, having much less business than we used to have, and everyone was quick with their comments. Anything before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Marion, I only want
Okay,
to tell my
yes.
son, if I could just say, my son-in-law just had a knee replacement and he's walking. It's only been a week, so he's doing fine. And I think if that happens to you, which I hope it doesn't, but recovery is pretty quick on that.
Well, he might be younger than I am, John.
I don't know.
But thank you for the encouragement. I very much appreciate that.
Hey, Marion, do the
Yes.
therapy. That is the key.
Thank you. I shall do the therapy. I mean, I've been told that, and that's good advice, so I'm gonna do it.
Bye.
Okay. Nothing else? May I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second? Second? Okay, John Browning seconded, John Phelps made the motion. Then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Likewise abstain, and likewise whatever. Okay, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Goodbye.
Bye, thanks.